everyone, welcome to the 7th video of automated security testing using ZAP series. Today we are going to learn about how we can perform JSON based authentication in ZAP. So for this, prerequisite will be that we should have Docker installed first of all, and then we need to execute this command. Okay, and as we have seen earlier during form based authentication in our previous video, for very first time when you will be executing this command, it will take some time, but once you are done with it, it will not take that much time. Like for the first time, only the Docker image will be pulled from the Docker hub, and for other time, like it will be coming from your local Docker Docker instance only. So I already have this image up and running in my system, and this is the port 3000 on which this particular application is running. So what I'll do, I'll go to localhost and 3000. And this is OWASP ZAP. This is a demo site for security testing, and by default you will be landing upon this particular page. Okay, so the first step would be you need to register for an account. For this you can click on login, and here you can say not yet a user, and then you can create one account here. I have already created an account, so I will be using that account. So now I will be switching over to ZAP, and here I will start recording for this particular site. I'm gonna fill up my credentials here. Now under ZAP I should be able to see recorded messages. Here we are, and then this is the call. If you see the post call containing the email and password in form of JSON data, right? And in the response we can see a token is also being generated here, right? And then how we can identify whether we are logged in or not. For this, if you see this call is being made, who am I, and before login, when this call was made, we were getting user as blank, and after logging in was successful, then we got the email of the user here, right? And what is the difference between both of these requests? If we go to the header section, we can see here the cookies, just the cookie type is being passed here. But if you observe here, we have first of all authorization header, and a bearer token is being passed, and then within cookie as well the token is being passed here as well, and token is same which is generated at this step, right? So now we know how we can identify whether a user is logged in or not, and how we can log in using this post call, right? The next step would be, yeah, so JSON based authentication, we are done with both of these things. And steps, context creation, we need to create a context. Okay, so for that, what I'll do, I'll go to this particular site. I'll say include site in context, and here change the name to JSON based auth, and just save it. Okay, so the context is created. The next step is that we need to create a session script. So this session script is basically to set up the bearer token and cookie for the upcoming request. So we know that using logging in, like script logging in steps, we will be able to log in, but then we need to extract this bearer token and use it in the further request, right? So for this, first of all, we need to set up this thing as flag as context, and this JSON based authentication, right? In our previous demo we have done the same thing for the form based authentication, and here this is password. The next thing will be, we will be setting up the user. Okay, so user setup is completed, authentication we have set up, and click on OK here. Okay, now we need to create a session script. For this you can move to script here, and this is session management section. Just click on new script, and here you can mention session script for JSON, and this will be a JavaScript file. Okay, and here this will be your script engine. And template, you can select a JSON session management.js. So this is a basic template, and you can modify it as per your requirement, right? As per the requirement of your web application. Then click on save. So a JavaScript file has been created, and the main motive of this file is to extract the token from the authentication response. Okay, because we will be setting up this JavaScript session management file as a session management in our context. Okay, so it will extract the response, like extract the token from that response, authentication response, and then it will set up the cookie and authentication header within the each request. So this method will be called for every request for which ZAP thinks that that request need the authentication. For every such request, this method will be called, and the header of that particular request for which authentication will be required will be set up with the token and the cookie. So let me show you the method which are there in this particular JavaScript file. So these are some basic classes which will be further used within these methods. So the very first method is extract web session. So basically here we are extracting the JSON body of this particular response. So this is our authentication response, right? And this JSON is being extracted here, and further we are taking the token out, we are passing the token, like passing the JSON to extract that token out of the response, and we are saving it in a variable. And then this is session wrapper, it is used for internal session management within the JAP. Then we are having a token as the session variable, and we are saving the value of our token within that session variable. And this thing is not required, you can just remove it. And similarly this thing is the same, and we do not need it. Now talking about the further things, like here we have set up a session variable, and we are further going to use it. And here we are we are taking the headers of the request which need the authentication, right? And we are setting the authorization header to null. Okay, and after doing this, what we will be doing, we will be setting this authorization to the bearer token. And here we are, this is the third method, and here we are kind of extracting our session variable. We are storing it into token, we are checking if the value is null, we are printing the message, we are returning from the method, and if the value is not null, then we are setting the cookie value. Okay, cookie type we have used from here, this is the cookie type, and then token we are setting here, right? And this is kind of, we are extracting the HTTP message, and then from the HTTP message we are reaching up to the header, we are setting the header authorization header to the bearer token. And then next, for the cookies, we are having the cookies variable here, and then we are adding this cookie into the cookies that we are getting from here. And in the end we are setting the cookies as well, just like the way we have set the header, this is the way we are setting the cookies. So in this way we are able to set both authorization header and the cookie using this session management JavaScript file. So now the next step will be, we need to, we have created the session, yeah, and we need to save it as well. And this thing we have already done, set up the authentication to JSON based authentication. After this, we need to set up the session management within the context and configure users. This thing has also been done. So now what I'll do, I'll save this quickly. Just click on save and save it from here. Go to the sites and open the context. And here we are in session management already. So here you can select script based session management and then select the script. Click on load. Loaded is being displayed here. Now let me check user is set up, authentication is also set up, and we need to set up this logged in and logged out identifier as well. So for this what we can do, so we know that this particular request we can use to identify whether a user is logged in or not, right? So what we will do, we'll copy this, control C, and talking about response, this can be used as a logged in indicator. And here we have logged in, and here can say poll the specified URL. And URL to poll, we can mention this thing. And here we can say, yeah, poll every 1 second. Or you can do a request as well. But let me keep it like 1 second only. And click on OK. And in the same way, we need a logged out indicator as well. So this is our logged out indicator, right? So we have set up both the logged out and logged in indicator, and here we are polling this particular uh, URI every 1 second to identify whether a user is logged in or not. Okay, so this setup is completed, and now I'll execute a scan now. From here I'll run a spider. Let me remove these redundant URLs, which of course you can do it from one way configuration using setting the options excluded URL and then exclude all of those URLs from here. But let me show you how the authenticated scan will work. So just right click and select a spider, and here we just need to select our user. The context is already selected, the JSON based authentication, and just start the scan. So if we see here, see every time, every 1 second a request is being made, because we have set up that we want to poll this request. Okay, and if you see our spider, so these are all the URLs, and we need to focus on this, like every request which is being made should have a authorization token and the cookie set to it. And we can see that this is happening with every request, right? So in this way we are able to spider an application using authentication, which we have used a JSON based authentication. And now talking about automation, first of all we need to export this context. Okay, once the context has been exported, we will be needing the name of this as well in our automation. And so there will be no that major change, like we have in our previous demo we have already discussed how we can do a form based authentication. So there will be no any major change, we just need to change our context here, and the user name is same test1, like we have kept the same name, so we do not need to change it. Our application is different this time, 3000. And yeah, apart from that, if we go through this perform spider as a user, of course we can change the function name, just spider as user. We can just keep it like this because we are using now for JSON based authentication. So we have passed our URL, the context name and the user, and then this method we have already explained in our previous demo, so you can go through the sixth video of this playlist, and there we have discussed what each of these things are doing, like how we are first we are extracting the context ID, then the user ID, then we are spidering using user, we are passing the context ID, user ID, side to test request true, and then we are having a API response here. Okay, and we are taking the spider scan ID out of this API response, then using that spider scan ID we are checking the status of the scan, whether the scan has completed 100% or not. Okay, and we know that as soon as a spider is completed, the passive scan gets started automatically. So this thing we have already taken care of, so let me execute it now. From zap test we just need to, yeah, first of all I'll do one thing. I'll remove this context from here because we will be importing it, right? So this is our initial state of zap, and now let me just execute. Execution has started. Context has been imported and spidering is going on, and let us see. Yeah, this is a authenticated spidering. If you see, every request has a authorization token and a cookie attached to it, right? And passive scan is also going on in parallel. Records to scans are increasing and decreasing simultaneously, and these are the alerts. So we have till now 2 medium, 4 low, and these are some informational 6, right? And instances of these alerts are increasing, and number of records to scan is 1 now. And if we see here, passive scan is in progress, that means spidering has been completed. If we see here as well, spidering is 100%. We are just waiting for this number to become 0. As soon as this will be 0, our scan will get completed, and we should have a report generated as well. So number is 0 now. That means, yeah, we have the report generated here. Now it is saying that we have 2 medium and 4 low. Informationals are not coming because we have already configured our report in such a way that informational one will not come. Like if you see here, generate zap report, here we have specifically mentioned that just include the high, medium and low. Okay, and for this, like if you want to see the detailing of this function, for that you can refer to second video of this playlist. And apart from that, I have created one more method, remove all alerts, because what I have observed that though we were cleaning the scan tree after each run, but alerts were not getting removed. And if we go into the detail of this method, this is pretty simple. We are hitting the alert API. The endpoint is delete all alerts. If you want to see it, you can navigate through this zap API UI as well. Okay, and I've already set up the postman for this, and the response would be something like okay. So you can just assert on it, like if you are receiving this particular message, that means all the alerts have been removed, otherwise there was some issue, and you will get this customized error message, right? So we are done with the agenda of this video. Just to summarize, so we started with this Docker image setup, and after this we were able to get a localhost application on which we can perform the JSON based authentication. And then we created a context and we created a session script. This session script was like checking the authentication response and extracting the token out of it and setting the uh, authorization header and the cookie for the further requests. And then we set up the authentication within that context as JSON based authentication, and we also set up the logged out, logged in indicator and the request which we set up to poll every 1 second, right? And then we also configure the session management using the same script which we have created in this step. Then we configured the users, we exported the context, and after that, in automation side, we just use the same method which we used for our previous demo, that was a form based authentication, and we just needed to change the context name. The test username was the same, and the URL, only application URL we did change, right? So that was all for this particular demo. And just like always, I'll share the notes and the source code of this particular demo in the description section of video. In case you have any query, feedback, suggestion, please leave out the same in the comment section. And if you are liking the content I'm making, please do like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you.